Happy New Year, everyone. Now we're into 2023. Are you looking at taking an IELTS test this year? If so, then this is an important video for you. You should have a look here and you will get a lot of information and a lot of guidance that should help you achieve the band level that you're hoping to achieve. Please keep watching. So over the years, I've assisted many students get the band that they want in IELTS. But many of them have come to me after having taken the IELTS test 3 or 4, in one case 5 times before they decided to seek assistance and get the band that they needed. Why did they do that? Well, not all for the same reason. It's not all to save money. Some people have been studying very hard and very long and been employing a tutor as well, but unfortunately that tutor has not been a great deal of help to them and not known how to guide them to where they wanted to be. You need to know where you are now. You need to know what's required to get the band that you need. And it's worth taking a lesson or two just to get that finalized, and then you can work away and get where you want to be. So, if you're planning to take an IELTS test in 2023, are you ready? My first big tip is don't leave it to the last minute. Start planning as early as possible and start getting yourself ready as early as possible. Give yourself the maximum chance of getting it right. The next thing you must consider is the institutions that you're interested in maybe going to study at. You need to find out what their requirements are for your IELTS band. As a guideline, I have found that for undergraduates, then you have to be aiming for a minimum of 6 in each of the disciplines of the IELTS. For postgraduates, then it's a minimum of 6.5 in each of the disciplines. Equal importance is knowing your current level. That is the way we can check what's needed to do to get to the level that's required but for the band that you want. One common mistake here is a lot of people think, well, I've been studying English, I've been reading books, I've been listening to videos, I've been trying hard, so I must be a B1 or a B2 in the CFR scale. If you know your CFR scale, that's perfect. It gives you a good indication. But a lot of people guess their CFR scale, and because they've been studying for a while, they automatically think, well, I must be in an intermediate area somewhere. And that's sometimes not the truth, because even A1 and A2 require a certain ability in English testing, and A2 can be quite difficult as well. So don't assume. Get yourself checked. If necessary, you can always take a mock level test, but if you know your CFR, then that would be a great start. Okay, I would just like to take a moment to discuss the CFR levels with you, and just to highlight the various aspects of them. So if you look at this graphic here, you can see A1 and A2, which is the base levels. If you look at A2, that can equate in IELTS to a level 3, a 3.5 or a 4. Now 4 is getting on quite well. But what I say to the majority of my students, that they should be aiming to be successful in any IELTS band level, is to be aiming for a B2 in the CFR level. Now then, most of my students, if I was honest, they come to me at the A2 level. Some of them have broached into the B1 level and they're coming on. If you look at B1, in IELTS that's a level 4.55 or 5.5. It's still not quite good enough for the majority of universities, so we need to be looking at the B2 level. So the B2 level in IELTS goes from 5.5, 6, 6.5, and borderlines on the 7 if you're really B2 plus. So it's a very good level to be aiming at. The C1 and the C2, yes, that's a higher level English, and the majority of people might never achieve that. So it's not realistic to aim for that actually. B2 is the area to be aiming at. Okay, sticking with CEFR level B2, I just really want you to understand the definition of B2 and how high this actually is in your English ability. So the definition is, can understand the main ideas of complex text on both concrete and abstract topics, including technical discussions in their field of specialization. Can interact with a degree of fluency and spontaneity that makes regular interaction with users of the target language quite possible without imposing strain on either party. Can produce clear, detailed text on a wide range of subjects and explain a viewpoint on a topical issue, giving the advantages and disadvantages of the various options. Wow, so that is really a high degree of fluency at B2 already. So if you can get there, as you can see, it's important to be able to assess your current status in your English ability. If you're not sure about your current ability, there are several online mock tests you can take. Have a look through YouTube, etc. Just be careful. Some of them are very good and some of them are not so good, and are trying to weave you into other options. Alternatively, you can book a lesson with myself online at iTalki, where I teach. My teacher contact is here. I will also put it in the comments at the end of the video. You're also welcome to email me, and my email address is here also. Believe me, this is important. It can save you a lot of worry, stress, money, anxiety, etc. if you just get it right at the beginning and then start working towards it. The main thing to achieve is confidence. You need to have the confidence at the end of the day. You're going in to take that IELTS test and you know you're going to achieve what you want to achieve, and that's important. Okay, I just want to give you another warning about the online availability of courses, etc. that people are offering for people studying for IELTS. There are a lot of courses being advertised online, i.e. Learn Advanced English, Learn 1000 Advanced Vocabulary Words, get a course of videos. Many of these will not only waste your money but also your valuable learning time, and you need to be very careful. It's so easy to think, that sounds like a good idea, I'll have a look at that, I'll have a try at that, but it might be taking you off at a tangent and leading you away from your course that you've started, your course to steer, your road to success in IELTS. Be careful, please. There's a lot out there that can hurt. So now I've got a question for you. Is achieving your required band level in IELTS important to you? I know it sounds a bit of a crazy question, but it's important that you think about that, and is it important to you? Because if you want to do it and you're going to feel confident in doing it and get what you want in the end, you have to work hard. It is not something that we can wave a magic wand and you're suddenly going to be all prepared. It's you that's going to be doing the learning and the practice, etc. So you have to be dedicated and committed to getting the end result that you want, and it does take time and work. One final point on that actually is that it doesn't have to be difficult. You can actually, if you approach it correctly in the right frame of mind, you can actually enjoy it, because what we want you to do is to immerse yourself for some weeks or for however long in English and listen to it and speak it and read it, and all these aspects are important, and learn your vocabulary and practice and bringing it all together. It takes time, it takes effort, but it can be enjoyable, trust me. Many of my students have told me that after they've achieved. Okay, to start winding this video up, I want to give you a few tips on the way that you should be getting yourself ready for the IELTS, and I'll go through them a little bit of it on each one. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is people that study alone. Why do they find it so hard, and why do they often fail? And I'll tell you why that is, but it's because they have a high degree or a high percentage of input study, in that they're reading and listening and trying to teach themselves, and they're not getting the output study of the writing and the speaking that's required. In actual fact, to be successful, you need to have a higher degree of output study, the writing and the speaking, than you do of the reading and the listening. But so saying, all are important. All 4 disciplines are important. So let's look at reading and what you need to be concentrating on there. I would suggest that you want to be trying to read something every day, even if it's only for a few minutes, and using a variety of different materials. Reading is the most effective way of building your vocabulary, and you do need to practice the pronunciation and when and how to use it. For new vocabulary, try using flashcards. You can write the word on the front and the translation on the back, and review these new words regularly. Also, try and use the vocabulary that you're discovering to write sentences from your own, and to show that to prove to yourself you understand how to use them. And the last point about reading is you've got to make an effort to get a good grip of synonyms and antonyms, particularly synonyms, because when you're describing reading passages, etc., you've got to use words that are similar in meaning, and that's very important. Okay, now let's discuss listening. Listening is one of the aspects that I believe in IELTS you've got to practice the listening test and understand the listening test a lot. Make sure you're fully familiar with the test. Listening to materials, once again, try to listen to some podcasts or English news channels or movies or videos. Try to listen to something every day. As I said before, try to immerse yourself in English while you're doing your IELTS preparation. This is very important. Get to know the different question types in the listening test: multiple choice, matching, plan, map, diagram, labeling, etc. Form, note, table, flowcharts, summary, completion, etc. Sentence completion and short answer questions. These are all very important. It's an area when I'm teaching my students, and I try to get them to do several of these listening tests and really come out. Because another thing is, if you get this listening test well under your belt, then this is another way of boosting your overall score in IELTS and getting a higher level than you might be aiming for. So it's an important area. Now we're moving on to the output aspects of IELTS, the writing and the speaking. Both very, very important, as I'm sure you're aware, and this is the 2 areas that I find concern the majority of the students the most. Let me talk about the writing first. You need to practice your writing, but this is one area where you really do need to get your writing expertly reviewed. I do a lot of it for my students. Your grammar is a very high priority in writing. It's a higher priority in writing more so than speaking. So it's an area that has to be checked. You've got to understand your essay structures, etc., the introductions, the body paragraphs, the conclusions, etc., and good paraphrasing abilities. And this is something that actually I think comes in handy all the way through IELTS, with paraphrasing, and it's an area that I concentrate quite hard on when I'm teaching, getting my students to think about paraphrasing all the time when they're answering the questions. So these are top priorities. Practice your writing and find somehow of getting your writing expertly reviewed. Not just a friend or someone that you know. It's important that you try to get this aspect right. The last discipline to talk about then is the speaking itself, and Speaking, this is one of the sections that seems to worry the majority of the students. Some are afraid of the 2-minute talk, the second task, and some, in my opinion, are more rightly afraid of the third aspect, the free speaking. But all three aspects, task 1, 2 and 3, they're all important, and it's important if you're practicing alone that you practice speaking out loud, and preferably recording yourself and listening to your recording to see how you sound and to see how your pronunciation and your clarity and fluency, etc. sounds. Very important. It's an area that when I'm studying with my students, then the majority of our online classes are all down to speaking, getting them to speak and getting them the confidence, etc. And that's the important area. So trying to speak clearly, avoid hesitations, and having a strategy. You want to be able to expand your answers relatively easy, and there's ways to do this like past, present and future, or the positives and negatives, the fors and against, etc. These are all aspects where I try to train my students to think about this right from the outset, and find it easier to expand their responses to the various questions that they'll be asked. So that's the final part of the speaking, and there's the final part of today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's if you're going in for a IELTS, and I think there's a lot of valuable information for you to take on board here. I will be following this up with other videos about IELTS, so please, if you would, then please subscribe to my channel and ring the bell, and then you will see, of course, when I put videos up, and you can follow my thoughts on there. So thank you for listening, and take care. Happy New Year, the best wishes for 2023, and if you're taking the IELTS, good luck to you. It's not luck you need, it's a bit of effort and practice and preparation, and I'm sure you will get on well. Bye for now.